Welcome to The Review, a Rev Partnership podcast, where we host conversations that share the power of public education and its impact on our region. I'm your host, Dr. Elizabeth Brands. In each episode, we will explore the stories, insights, and conversations that shape the future of student learning and growth in our region. Tarrant County is a community with incredible power and potential. At the heart of this power is our public education. Education is more than just a foundation. It's a catalyst for transformation. Let's jump into the episode. I am here with some wonderful people on this Friday afternoon at The Review, the Rev Partnership Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Elizabeth Brands, and today's conversation, we are going to share the value of non-college pathways and the impact of these programs on Tarrant County's workforce. CTE pathways, or career and technical education pathways for students, have been a big push in Texas over the last 10 years. And we're going to talk about, are they fulfilling their promise to students of graduating from high school and entering into jobs out of high school that are earning them a living wage and a path to a thriving financial and economic future. Today we are joined by Mr. Todd Smith, the Superintendent of Azle ISD, Dr. Phillips, the Associate Superintendent of Everman ISD, and Jessica Heer, the Executive Vice President of the Fort Worth Economic Development Partnership. Thank you all for being here on this Friday afternoon and for bringing the unique expertise and perspective that you're going to have to this conversation. Todd joined Azle ISD 30 years ago and has been the superintendent since June of 2020. Todd, I am sure there are some stories about stepping into that role in June of 2020. And you've held a number of positions during your tenure at Azle ISD, from elementary school principal to assistant principal, director of operations, associate superintendent, and then, of course, more recently in this current position as the superintendent. Dr. Phillips, we've gotten to know you in your leadership position over at Everman ISD and the work that you have done to lead Everman ISD into district-wide implementation of the teacher incentive allotment to increase the compensation that you are giving to teachers that are really demonstrating growth for students year over year in their academic progress. That program that you brought to Everman ISD has generated almost $900,000 in its first year to pay Everman ISD teachers. And I just want to put a couple exclamation points on that because that is no joke. When you are bringing in those kinds of dollars and it is going to compensate teachers where your academic data is showing that those teachers are driving improvement for students, huge kudos to you. And I'm sure all the work that is behind that tremendous outcome. You have also launched your district's first school of choice and boosted efforts around CCMR, or the College, Career, and Military Readiness, that have now grown by over 35%. It's a pleasure to have you joining us today and representing all the great work that Everman ISD is doing.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
And Jessica, joining us to contribute kind of on the economic side of what's happening across Tarrant County. Your role as EVP of the Fort Worth Economic Development Partnership is to retain and recruit industry to come to Tarrant County. We know that Fort Worth is now the 12th largest city in the state of Texas, and a big reason for that is the industry and economy that we are moving and growing to this part of the region. You come to the Fort Worth Economic Development Partnership after some time over in Dallas doing very similar work, and we've moved your talents west to help us grow industry over here. Not only for this region, but for these students that are going to be graduating from these public schools and then going into our future workforce. So we're excited to have your perspective on what we're hearing from industry, who's coming to our region, who you're recruiting to our region, and how that plays into the non-college pathways that these school districts are setting kids up for.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
Thanks for being here. Well, Todd, I'm going to start with you because you started your career, or had a part of your career, as a CTE teacher. So you were one of the teachers who was in those high school classrooms and you are helping students grow the credentialing that they needed to, if they wanted, to leave their high school experience and move into a job right out of high school. I'm sure there are some stories from those days as a teacher. Can you tell us a little bit about what the role of being a CTE teacher is like?
Yes, and and that you're right, and that's what I did. Started, you said 30 years ago, and started as an ag teacher. And so my time as the CTE teacher looked a lot different than what it looks now. And of course we were teaching, that more of that in that CTE field, but did not have the certification component of it now, and so when you just look at where it has really transformed since that, the opportunities that these students have. As an ag teacher, we taught welding, and we taught electrical skills, but nothing to the level of, these certifications that these students can get out of high school now.
Yeah.
So. Yes.
So now in Tarrant County, or this most recent school year, the 23-24 school year, about 1 in every 3 high school graduates left high school with an approved industry-based certificate, or IBC. And that really is an increase from the previous academic year of almost 3%. So that's exactly what you're speaking to. Of now we have these high school students who can leave high school. There are hundreds of IBCs, from plumbing to being an electrician to a contractor, I'm sure you can add in some others. And it's giving them the option that should they want to go right into a job, that they have the credentialing to do that. And so you talked a little bit about what CTE looked like kind of back in your days of being an ag teacher, and how it's grown today. As students have pursued these skilled jobs, what has the impact of that been to those students long term as they're choosing this non-college option for them?
Well, when I look there in Azle ISD, in just the last 5 years, we've doubled our IBCs, our industry-based certifications.
Mm-hmm.
I think 5 years ago we were right about 600. Last year we were pushing 1,200, and I'm sure we'll exceed, more than that this year. And so, I just look at the opportunities that they have with those certifications, and we kind of try to take 2 routes with kind of the mindset that we have in Azle ISD. We definitely, the certifications that they know when they leave high school, they can go directly into the workforce with those certifications. We have a couple that I think we might get to that are kind of unique to some things that we can do in Azle ISD with some programs, some partnerships that we have. And I can talk about those now, or we can wait. I think when we had kind of talked, you said we might talk about those. Uh-huh. But we also, and probably just like, we also want those students to have the opportunity, and I keep talking a little bit about welding. So not only able to get that welding certification and then go out into the field, and as a certified welder. But maybe 4, 5, 10 years from now, they say, listen, I don't like being out here when it's 110 degrees or, when it's 20 degrees welding, and have that opportunity. Maybe they want to go back to school or do, and so give them that foundation to where they can get back into that fold if that's what they're wanting to be able to do. So we try to provide those opportunities as well.
Yeah. Dr. Phillips, I think there's going to be a lot of people who listen to this podcast and had no idea that you could graduate from high school here in Tarrant County or the state of Texas and walk out of that high school graduation and go earn a living wage job because you have one of these industry-based certificates. So talk to us a little bit, maybe paint a picture of what does that look like for a kid? What kind of industry-based certificates are kids graduating from Everman ISD with? And how is that then looking as they, graduate from your institution, your district, and then move on into the next phase of what they choose post-secondary?
Absolutely. It can look many different ways, really, right? But it's so cool. The world has evolved a great deal, meaning that you can find a great career, and not have a college degree, which I think is so cool. We have options now for students. And the more options we have, the more opportunity we have for students. So how they can look, for instance, in Everman, we have 7 programs to study. And one of those programs I'm most proud of is our electrician program. And so those students start, and you would never think that program would be so attractive and students would love to be in that program. And so they start as a freshman, they learn the basic skills, and they take a class that builds on top of the previous class each year. Mm-hmm. And by the time they get to their senior year, they're taking a certification test so they can start their career as an electrician. As an electrician, you have many possibilities. You can work for Encore, for instance. You can work as your own business owner. You can do many different things. So And students today, they want options. So earning a certification like electrician gives you the option to own your own business, work for someone else, or even go to college and learn even more about what you want to do. So it can look many different ways. Another that I'm really proud of is electrical technology.
Okay.
And I'm really proud of that one because I think it's a growing industry. I think our country and our world, we're focusing now on building more semiconductors. And I think that's an emerging field that's going to have an emerging workforce. And so our students in Everman are going to be able to take advantage of the emerging workforce and be prepared for it. So in partnership with Tarrant County Community College, it's a dual enrollment program where they're earning high school credit and college credit at the same time. So by the time they leave high school, they're certified to get an entry-level job in a field that's growing today. So they're going to be in a high demand area. So it can look many different ways to where it's no college at all, and it's all high school certification and learning, and you can have a great career. It's another way where you can go to college and high school at the same time and be ready for the workforce, or even a third way where you can go learn some skills, some prerequisite skills in high school and further education in college and then have a career. So those are at least 3 different ways it can look for our high school students today.
That's great. And I'm going to make a connection to a previous podcast that we recorded where we talked about the dual enrollment program that all Tarrant County school districts have access to with Tarleton State for their education and training students.
That's pretty cool too.
So any student right now in a Tarrant County high school who has said, I want to be a teacher when I grow up, and they're taking the courses in high school under that education and training pathway, they're getting credits at Tarleton State that we calculated could save them up to $13,000 if they decide to then enroll in Tarleton State, because they're not having to pay for those credits once they get to college. And for a career path that I know many of us in this room have chosen, that is not always perceived as the most lucrative career path to go into teaching, $13,000 it's real money that young people are keeping in their pockets, and a real incentive for them to persist with that career path post their high school graduation. So just adding an additional example that Tarrant County students have access to in terms of that dual enrollment piece, in addition to what you've talked about.
And you don't mind me saying, that's real savings for their family,
yes.
Right? So you can earn college hours and earn more education and not have the expense be a hardship for a family. So I think that's great. You can get prepared now for a very low price or for maybe even free.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
I just kind of piggyback off of that as well. You know, we've got a strong connection with our partnership with the Tarleton today. And I think, you take also your CTE programs that you're able to partner there. But we have parents that come back all the time and they're really, the fact that now when they do, those college-bound students that are able to also take an opportunity of that, they might only actually be on that campus for 2 or 3 years because of the credit that they received or the hours that they received in high school.
And you're a proud alum of Tarleton State, right?
That's why I had to get that in.
Well, that's great. Well, Jessica, we know that there's a lot of reasons to be excited about moving your job, your company, your business to Texas. We have 0% state and local income tax, which is very appealing to companies that are looking to locate or relocate here. We're the 12th largest city in the state, as we mentioned. We have a 3% lower cost of living here in the region than the national average, and 3% lower cost of doing business.
Yes.
And higher than that, almost 4%, 3.8% lower cost of living than the national average. So if I'm a company looking at all my state options, those are some appealing numbers to me to think about moving my company, my industry to Texas. When you are talking to these companies that either you are recruiting to bring to our region, or they've raised their hand and said, we're curious about the possibilities of coming to North Texas, what are you hearing from those companies as the top things that they are looking for in their decision to locate here?
Talent. I've been in this business for over 20 years, and it used to be location. So no more is it the 3 L's. It's now talent. Where can we get it, and when can we get it? How fast and how much does it cost?
Okay.
Wow. So we are definitely talking to every single client about where they can get talent. So North Texas is a very robust pipeline of talent, just sheer population. Companies will find the talent that they need. I often say if you can't find the talent you need in over 10 million people, then we are going to have an issue. We're sitting at 8.1 right now in the greater DFW area, 8.1 million people, but we are projected to outpace Chicago in the coming years. So we're going to be the third largest metropolitan area. But here in Fort Worth, just 45 minutes from downtown Fort Worth, we have access to 1.6 million people who are currently working. Doesn't mean they're working in Fort Worth, but they could be working in the greater area. They're certainly commuting throughout the Metroplex. And so we're going to be a natural attractor to companies just because of the data. The data and the numbers get us in the door, but what they want to know is exactly what you have been talking about. Where can we get the skilled talent? And it's not always about 4-year degrees. It could be, where's the pipeline and how far back is the pipeline can we go for these particular trades that they're looking for.
Okay, then we're going to make sure the rest of this podcast is a strong appeal to businesses and industry that's looking to relocate to North Texas, to give them an indisputable answer to their questions about where are they getting talent, because they're going to get them right here from our graduates at districts like Everman and Azle, but the other 17 in our region as well, okay? So that's what we're going to do the rest of the podcast.
Yeah.
We're going to make sure to convince future industry this is their new home.
Yes.
Sound good?
Yes, I'm going to turn you into ambassadors.
There you go.
We appreciate that.
Jessica, what kinds of industries, if you were to kind of pick the 3 to 5 sectors that are really looking at this region, because I think this will be a good connection to what our districts are building in their CTE programs, so that we have a good handoff to our industry that is here and looking to come here.
So Fort Worth economy is very diverse. We are attracting companies in every industry. We are seeing a strong focus in aerospace, defense, anything that touches an aircraft, whether it's a small part, a big engine, or the aircraft itself, is definitely a top target industry, as well as a strong cluster for us. There's about 23,000 workers in that industry cluster in the greater Fort Worth area. Larger than that is mobility and logistics. So thinking movement of product, whether you're doing it by truck or you're an IT company managing 3PL technology from top to bottom. So definitely mobility. And of course, we have our big companies like BNSF and American Airlines based in Fort Worth that are certainly driving that. So those are 2 big industries, but we're also seeing a lot of energy. And that could be solar. So solar, something as simple as a solar panel manufacturing, or solar cell manufacturing, are things that we're seeing come across our desks. And these are projects that are interested across Texas and the United States, looking to open their facilities. We're also seeing battery, the full life scale. And you mentioned electronics. So a lot of components related to that. So LG is creating charging stations in North Fort Worth for cars, for EVs. And so you got to have more charging stations if you're going to have more EVs on the road. And so Fort Worth is building that technology with LG right here at home. And then Siemens doing electrical components as well, which was a project that we brought to town a few years ago as well. So certainly seeing that. And then I would say healthcare is a big draw, definitely, especially here in Fort Worth. We've got some huge hospital systems, so that's going to be a natural draw and demand in our area.
Okay.
Yeah. So there you go.
Yes, it's great information.
Well, out in Azle ISD, they are answering the call, and we looked far and wide across the nation to see if there was any other similar program to what Azle has built in partnership with industry out there for their refrigeration certificate, and that can include, if you're of driving age, a commercial driver's license for students who are 18 years of older, to really be a response to the industry demand that you're talking about, logistics and mobility. So I'm not going to steal Todd's thunder. It was him and his team, Dr. Murr, Suzanne Murr, and Todd, that really built this program out in Azle. And I'm going to let you talk to Todd about that. And please make sure, too, to talk about the recognition you got in Colorado for the program, too.
Well, 2 programs that we'll try to hit on real quick, and I don't, definitely want to monopolize the time, but go through. And so we started an industrial refrigeration program, and it actually came to us. And so when we talk about unique, it was a community partner that had identified that he was having trouble getting a workforce. And through knowing that, hearing an overview of our CTE program and an Optimist Club breakfast, Dr. Murr, our CTE director, had come in and gave an overview, and he approached Dr. Murr and myself. I was the assistant superintendent at the time, of how can we create a pipeline within Azle High School and in your CTE program. And so the industrial refrigeration industry, what even makes his company, M.R. Braz and Associates, a little more unique is it's ammonia based. And so it's a natural refrigerant. And so it's not Freon based. And so he has all the cold chilling facilities for like Tyson Chicken, the Walmart distribution centers all over the United States. And so he approached us and we started a program. He wrote the curriculum, and we had to get a little innovative, because we get it, you guys on the school side, of how we could make it work, because he's like, this is simple. I'm going to come teach this and this will work. Well, we got these rules, TEA, and we've got to do this, and it's got to align to a TEK and all this stuff. And so we worked through all that. And so where Dr. Brand is going with this, we were able to, because this was definitely a showcase of the industrial refrigeration industry. And so that first year that we had this program, their national conference for this natural refrigerant was in Colorado Springs. And so our students got to go to Colorado Springs, and it was hosted at the Broadmoor. And so they've got to experience this conference. And so our kids were just showcased, and it was amazing. They had us come in and present to the board on how to create this. And anyways, it was neat. And that program has continued to grow. Not as quickly as we had hoped, because there is, although it's a great program, you've got to have some math skills involved in it, and so sometimes our students don't quite understand the amount of math skills that are involved in that. The other unique program that we had with a community partner that approached us that we just started this year, or this last school year, was a crane rigging certification. And we had an individual from a local union that approached us, same thing. They cannot get these crane operators. And so he approached us and said, how can we embed this into a high school curriculum in Azle? And so we were able to partner with him, talked about it for almost a year and a half before we were able to do it. And again, in working through some of the TEA requirements and a teacher of record and all that, we were able to do it. And we had our first group. Last year it was 13 students, and one of those was a senior, and that's the one that the CDL is tied to. Because what he said is these crane operators aren't we need them to be able to drive a crane.
Okay.
And so we have tried, we've got one student, and so one of the struggles we have is you have to be 18 to get a CDL. So what we have started doing is this spring, we will kind of do like that driver's ed portion of the CDL until that way, kind of the bookwork. And then that way, when they turn 18, we can help them. And it's unique, and I could go talk along, but we do a partnership through our transportation department, because, we have CDL trainers in our transportation department that are training our bus drivers, so they can kind of handle that portion. Just like many schools, we use the semi that we pull our band trailer with for the training, and so it's pretty neat. And so the CDL program was actually with that crane operating rigging certification.
And you have a crane simulator, is that right?
Yes.
So you're going to let us all come out and sit and try out the crane simulator, right?
It is pretty neat. It is pretty neat. And he donated that as part of that program, and so they get to use that. He brings cranes out to site. We have bused students in the class out to their site, and so it's a really neat experience.
So Jessica, when industry is asking you about talent, you're going to say the Azle ISD graduates, they can operate the cranes to build your new industry buildings that they're going to need when they relocate here. And then their CDL, their commercial driver's license, can help fill those mobility and transportation job sector.
Yep.
So we're giving you some answers to make sure this is an attractive place for industry to relocate when they're asking about talent.
For sure.
Okay. We're Dr. Phillips. I know that CTE has been a priority at Everman ISD, as you guys want to make sure that your 8th through 12th graders are leaving with access to a lot of post-secondary options, whether they choose a 2-year, 4 years, or go right into the workforce. So talk to us a little bit about some of the work that you've done in CTE at Everman that you're most proud of for your students.
Sure will. I want to say first, that's pretty cool. I think those are two great programs, and I think that's one of the best ways to build programs. When you have community partners and you know it's a workforce there, it's a need there, that's awesome to have there. The work I'm most proud of, when I first started in Everman in central office, one strategy we had in place was to offer as many CTE programs as possible, like 21 programs. And I just didn't understand how we could maximize and do 21 things very well. So we scaled back, right? We took a step back in order to do things well. So it was more about the quality than the quantity. So we scaled back to 7 programs, and we did the work. We surveyed students, we surveyed parents, we took interest, we looked at the job market in our area to see what was in high demand, and we settled in on 7 programs. And so with those 7 programs, we're able to attract teachers from the industry a lot better than we could with 21 programs. Because we're able to attract teachers from the industry, we're able to have high quality teachers in those programs. Because we have better quality teachers in the programs, then the students are getting a better experience and are becoming more prepared. So, over the years, maybe it's been 6 years now, we've changed the program out here or there. But focusing on a smaller number of programs has allowed us to ensure our students are prepared and be able to pass those certification exams and increase our CCMR numbers. But more importantly than that, it's preparing our students for the future workforce. And so that project was a tough project. I was a new guy coming in, very inexperienced, and so I learned a lot of lessons going through that. But at the end of the day, it was very rewarding because we ended up focusing more on quality than quantity, and that was the best for our students.
So I think unless you're kind of in the school business space, you might not realize that these classes that Todd and Dr. Phillips are talking about, they need to be taught by somebody from industry for the students to be eligible for getting their IBC certificate. Is that correct?
That's correct. It's a lot better. And you can find it's certain courses where you may not need to have the industry experience, but many times it makes it a better experience if you do.
So tell me, like those are, they had a long career as an electrician. They want to come back and be a teacher. How do you get back into the classroom?
Let me tell you, maybe the teacher I'm most proud, and I always say electrician, but I really like these guys. It was one guy, and I was a principal at a junior high school in Everman, and he worked in our maintenance department. And he was always very personable. He's an Eagles fan, so we had a little problem there. But other than that, he's a great guy. But he had great energy, and he said, one day, I want to be a teacher. And so happened I had a chance to move to central administration. And I remembered that. And so when we were going through our surveys with students and figuring out programming, electrician came up as a program. And I remember this guy, and he had great personality, great energy, had a love for kids. And so I went back and recruited him. He did all the work to make sure he had everything in order to be prepared as a teacher, and he recruited other men from the maintenance department or from other companies to be an electrician and come back. So they've built this great team. Again, electricians is not something that kids grow up say, I want to do that, right? But we have 14 and 15-year-olds, boys and girls, who are in this program. It's our most popular program. And it's because of the energy that this team brings. So where I found this team at was home in Everman. And they have really grown. They work together well. It's just a beautiful thing to see. And so that's one way we found teachers is by looking at our maintenance department and finding people who had a passion for students, had a passion for learning. And this guy, the entire team is great, but this one particular teacher, he coaches baseball for us. He's all in on everything, and he has really impacted our students. And along with just reorganizing CTE, now that you made me think about it, that's maybe one of the things I'm most proud of is helping someone in another industry find and pursue their passion in education and giving them opportunity to thrive and do very well. And it's a mutual benefit. Yeah.
What a great thing, too, for the students to see this person come from industry back to teach them and to give these students that confidence that they're being taught by an industry expert. They are getting real industry lessons. I'm sure there's a lot of storytelling, too, that goes on from these professionals who have left industry or are telling kids, here's what it's really like when you do it, and how invaluable that real lived experience is to be passed down to the next generation. I think there's there can be this question of why would we be preparing in our high schools kids to go right into the workforce? Why would we not be preparing them to persist with higher degrees of education? Wouldn't that set them up for future success in a better way? So I'm curious how you would answer that question from your seat as in the administration role. How would you answer that question to somebody who said, well, why, Dr. Phillips, are you preparing these kids to go right into being an electrician? Wouldn't it be better for them to go to college, to go to community college? Doesn't that set them up for a different pathway? Can you talk to us a little bit about how you might respond to that?
Well, I guess I would say better according to who, right? This student is sitting right in front of me, and he's saying, or she's saying, I'm ready to go to work now.
Yeah.
Now, I can try to fight that. I can try to, compete against that, and I can explain the benefits. But sometimes it is more beneficial that they go right into the workforce. Maybe they're ready to work and take care of a family. Maybe they're ready to grow and begin an entry-level position and grow in that role. So how I would respond to that is better according to who. Students in 2025, very smart. I think as smart as they've ever been before. And so I think it's important that we listen to what are their ideas of success, right? And we not try to push our ideas of success upon them from old generations or other generations, but what do you want to do? What do you want to become? What is success to you? And let's listen to that, and let's figure out a personal plan for that particular student to help them achieve that idea. So my response would be better according to who? Yeah. Because in my view, I do what's best for the student.
When I think about that one, and I think about our vision, and it's every child will be future ready, not by chance, but by design. Mm-hmm. And so I think, it goes back to what is future ready. And, mm-hmm. and I think it goes back by who, mm-hmm. So does college mean future ready? Does military mean future ready? Or does the workforce mean future ready? And so I think what we do, again, and I'll go back to kind of just taking that pride of giving them some tools for their tool belt. Mm-hmm. And if that's what they want to do and go straight out to that workforce, then they're going to have some certifications that are going to get them that job and prepare them for that workforce. Mm-hmm. If that's not the case, they still have those certifications and they go to the 2-year program or the 4-year program or go the military route. And so, just really focusing on being sure that we're meeting those needs of every student and that family and their dynamics of what they need.
Yeah. Jessica, as you think about industry that you are recruiting or that is looking at coming here, how would you think kind of those responses would stack up? Are they looking and needing these kinds of industry, needing entry-level jobs? Do they have programs internally within their company to ladder careers for somebody to begin and grow the competencies? If I were to say that more simply, I'd say, what are companies looking for in their employee workforce when they talk about talent to you?
Right. So when we're talking to a company, whether they're expanding here or they're moving here, let's take the example of they're moving here. I need to hire 10 people to 1,000 people. All of those people are not at the same level. You're going to have a CEO and you're going to have a lower level that's an entry point. And so we don't need everyone in one single bucket. So they're constantly talking to us about the entry points into the pathway where they can get the talent that they need to do the job that they are needing them to do. And we spend a lot of time talking about training and where they can get that training locally because, as I said, with a company that's coming here, they don't know the system. And one of the things that we hear a lot from outsiders is, wow, I cannot believe how well you all in Fort Worth and Tarrant County and the surrounding areas work together from pre-K to 12 to higher ed to certification and to industry and employer. Yeah. And so we often bring in companies who have worked with the school district or Tarrant County College or another college or the 4-year school to get the training and talent that they need into their workforce and pipeline. And we hear really, really positive stories from our industry and companies that are looking at us. So they like to see that it is a collaborative community, and we hear from the outside that we are. So we all should pat ourselves on the back.
For sure.
For that.
Elizabeth, I think it'd also go back to, I think one of the answers I would answer that is, have they had to have somebody that had a skilled trade? I mean, have they had to hire an electrician for anything? Have they had to hire a plumber for something? And so when you really look at what is the importance of teaching these skilled trades, look at what they've had to use, whether that's a homeowner building their company or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you don't have to drive, further than Everman or Azle to see all the growth happening in our region, from cranes downtown building, high-rise buildings to electricians building,
Yes.
new housing developments. I mean, it's visibly apparent that our industry, needs those kinds of workers. So I think that's a great point. We could just take the skeptics on a drive and say, look at all the trade jobs that are out there. Well, we looked into it a little bit too, and we wanted to see, what is a living wage rate in Tarrant County? What are they calculating is what you need to make as a single person earning a living wage? So that would be your high school graduate, who's living on their own, who's decided to go into industry. I know there's a number of living wage calculators out there. We looked at a couple, and the number was about $50,000 you would need to earn as a single person to meet that living wage threshold. Then we ran the numbers for electricians in Everman, knowing Everman has a strong electrician program. And as a first-year electrician, right out of the gate with a certificate, you could earn $55,000. So it would put them above the living wage rate. So I think, too, that's a great example of how the economics of it, the income of it really supports that. Right out of the gate, you could be above that living wage rate. And while Todd and I are going to take them too on a drive around Tarrant County to see all the growth that is happening, the numbers support that as well. By 2032, I wanted to make sure I got my future date right. By 2032, the demand for these critical trade skill jobs that we're talking about, plumber, electrician, construction, is projected to be 20 times more than the demand for those jobs today. So by 2032, in 10 years, it is projected that the demand for those critical trade skills is going to be 20 times higher than what we even see it as today. So I think, too, those are numbers that support that a pathway into these kinds of career tech CTE jobs and then a path to grow once they get there is really important for our region to have.
For
Information.
And I think, when you say that, I was a little bit worried about what dollar figure you were going to put out there, knowing what.
Dr. Phillips was too.
We're wondering because we were hoping it was at least going to be what we paid our teachers, and so when you look at that,
so you're good, right?
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah.
We're good,
Okay,
but not by much. And so I think that's something. Again, I know that the teaching is a whole different profession, and there's more to it than just the salary. But when you look at that is comparison to we're at about 60,000. I'm sure they're pretty close for a starting teacher, and so I think that's something that we're in, at least in our field, we're always comparing that to when we hear, I'll go back to our crane certification. He's saying, listen, if you can get them out of here with this certification and they can have a CDL, they're going to start out at 100,000, and then here we are, starting our teachers at 60,000 that went through school for 4 or 5 years,
Yeah.
That's a great point. I add on to that a bit because you may have to go through school and get loans and accrue all sorts of debt. And we're coming out of high school, and you're right. I was so relieved to hear 55,000. But when you're coming out of high school making a living wage and you don't have any debt to pay off, so that's great.
Yeah, that's no joke.
Yeah.
And Jessica, you really gave accolades to our region and the spirit of collaboration that we have, and I'm happy to hear that industry feels that as well, because I think those of us that are in the work, we see it and we feel it, but it's always validating when somebody from the outside is saying the same thing too. And it's very apparent that our business community, they strive. They understand, I'll start with this, they understand the connection between a thriving education system and a thriving economy. They understand that those things are mutually connected and that the success of our public education system drives the success of our regional economy. And I would argue that it's not a linear partnership. It's not our K-12 system hands the future workforce to our industry partners, but really we need a vibrant industry for the primary caregivers of our kids and our future graduates to be employed into. And so really seeing it as this mutually reinforcing partnership where we need strong industry to support strong academic outcomes and vice versa. And one of the pieces of what one of the 4 priorities of the REV partnership and the superintendents identified, and they deputized their CTE directors and others to lead on an annual basis, was really around this partnership on the CTE side between business and our school systems. And we have a lot of groups in the county and in the city of Fort Worth that are on the business side that have been gathered to think about this. How do we as a business community support education and workforce? And our CTE directors, just as recently as yesterday, we brought this question to them and we said, if you could ask of anything from businesses in this community, what do you need as a CTE director, somebody leading these career pathways in your district? What do you need from businesses to be successful? Rev had a very successful, has followed this approach before with higher ed, where we got together the talent directors and said, how could we partner with higher ed to build a robust, effective educator pipeline? And using and brokering the scale of 750,000 kids, 17 districts, 35,000 teachers who are employed by these 17 districts. It makes them a very competitive employer to our for-profit companies coming here. They came up with what they needed from higher ed and pitched that to higher ed at Mansfield ISD last spring. And we had 3 higher ed partners who answered the call, checking off every one of our ISD's requests of higher ed. And following that same model on a business side, how can our K-12 system say, we want and need and benefit from more of these partnerships like Todd has built at Azle with the crane simulation program and the refrigeration program? And how can we partner with businesses collectively as a region to get those things that we need for kids and that ultimately help industry? And so our CTE directors, they started working on it yesterday. They had the white papers up on the board. They are brainstorming their wish list, and they're preparing to put together a very similar pitch. And I say pitch, but I mean, it's a gentle pitch, to say, business, you see the need for us to be mutually successful. And how can we work together in these specific ways and pitching to them what our K-12 system could really benefit from in terms of true business partnership. So that was a long way to say be on the lookout, because this approach has worked for our K-12 system when they've come together in this way to build the educator pipeline they need and the partnerships with higher ed. And we're looking at replicating that on the business side to say, let's form this partnership at a regional scale, because when you have 750,000 kids in a region, we need to make sure that opportunities like the crane simulation program or the HVAC program are available at a scale that also matches the industry demand of how many crane operators and HVAC refrigeration technicians that we need to fill those jobs. Okay, the next section. So let's talk about partnerships. I mean, I kind of gave like this headway into partnerships. If you could say to businesses in your position as assistant superintendent, here's what we need from you. What would you say is the greatest need that you see in your district to partner with industry?
Go ahead.
I would say the greatest need is the overall partnership. And what I mean is that a corporation or coming in and say, we have jobs and we want to build a workforce with your district. And these are the jobs that we have. And working with us to build curriculum to prepare those students for those jobs, to help market those opportunities to parents of those students, and to support us throughout the 4 years to build a complete program until it's up and running to where we can build a workforce that continues to feed that industry, and to where our students can live in their community and continue to build their lives with their families in that community. Okay. I think that is exactly what builds a great program. It is the beginning and the end. It starts with the curriculum and the need, and then the support to go all the way through that cycle, if you will, to make sure that we get our students where they need to be, and we give the companies what they need to have.
Yeah. Okay, Todd, what would you say you want from businesses?
I would say the same. That tell us what you need. And then, Azle, we're unique in some of the partnerships that you have, or some of the other districts in Tarrant County in the REV partnership, because, we just don't have a lot of industry right there. And it's we can't get our kids into Fort Worth because of travel. And so we have, and I don't want to just keep talking about the same programs, but that's a direct pipeline on that industrial refrigeration industry. The crane is a direct pipeline into that. And we have another one in our welding program with IMS, Instructional Materials Systems. And again, they partner with us on practicum experience for our students, and we're able to put them there. And then they're hiring them right when they're getting out of school or getting their certifications. And also, I'll take it, you talked about the health field. We've got a great partnership with our local nursing home, and we have a Texas Health Azle location. And so again, same thing, we've been able to put our health science students in there. And even with the nursing home, they'll put them in there. But then once they pass that CNA certification, they'll hire them and give them a raise. I mean, they'll already hire them, but they'll give them a raise. And so I think it's that partnership and that curriculum component. And I want to talk real quick about the curriculum component. In both that industrial refrigeration and in the crane program, they're volunteering. Mm-hmm. Those people, they come in and they volunteer an hour of the class period. Now, we've got to give a teacher a record in there for grading purposes and all that, but they're coming in there and volunteering. So it's also, and they make sure that the students know this is their kind of their way of giving back and their commitment to this industry. So I think that also shows that, hey, I mean, this guy is willing to put something in me. And so I think it helps build that excitement a little bit too.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah.
Hey, Jessica, speaking for industry, what would you say is the ask of our K-12 public education system?
Speaking about companies who are examining the region for location, I would say they love hearing about the dual credit. Mm-hmm. And because that just makes the pipeline bigger. Mm-hmm. And so they love to hear that is in place and that they can hire those people right away. And so that is a big need that they like to hear. And again, partnership with the community college, because a lot of times when new companies are coming to town, there is a state incentive that allows for curriculum to be created to match their particular company. And so that creates an opportunity for you. So I would say keep an eye on new things coming to town, because that always drives where curriculum is going to be created, at least at the community college level. We bring in superintendents to talk to our clients, so I hope that you will consider that if I ever call.
We'll make sure you've got our contact.
Yes, and sometimes those projects are secret and code named. For example, we have an HVAC one right now, and they're just looking at real estate, but sometimes they want to talk to either the industry specifically, or sometimes they want to talk to the educators, and educators are busy educating, and so sometimes we do come calling, and the ISDs have been great about sending people, but I haven't had an opportunity to work with y'all, so I might be calling now.
We'd love to.
Okay.
We'd love to. Elizabeth, I think a portion of that, and I think that is really that true partnership, not send us a letter of, hey, we hope that you teach soft skills, and we hope you teach, sit down at the table with us and tell us what you want. And then let's work together on building that curriculum, and then let's evaluate it, because we know, and the reality is, and these kindergartnens, all this stuff we're going to talk, it's not even going to be here when they get up to high school and some of this stuff. And so, so sit down, tell us what we need, tell us how we can work together, tell us what we can do, tell us what you can do on your part, and then let's partner up and let's make this work, not just, sit there and say, well, we wish your kids would come with this, and let's figure out.
I think just piggybacking on that, the fastest skill change right now is anything that touches a computer, mm-hmm. right? And especially in artificial intelligence, mm-hmm. and that's going to be rapidly changing, already is. Something new was created while we were sitting here. Mm-hmm. And cybersecurity. So those are not necessarily crossing our pipeline of projects, but it's certainly something that we're keeping an eye on. I've certainly had people in my sphere that are impacted by those changes, and they're trying to figure out what they're going to do. And so that's certainly one to keep an eye on because there's probably going to be some certifications that aren't created yet that we're going to need.
We've got kids with the cybersecurity certification.
Okay,
so,
good.
So when you need those, let us know.
Okay.
We've got a strong cybersecurity teacher as well.
That's wonderful. Well, I am listening to the conversation. I mean, I am just struck and going to walk out of here thinking we have the answers to this. We have the answers to filling the talent pipeline we need when we have such strong CTE programs in our districts, and we have leaders like you who are constantly trying to be responsive to how do we put kids on the path to be successful when they walk out of your door, whether that's a military path, a 4-year path, a 2-year path, or going right into industry. This fall, Rev Partnership ran what we called our Caught You Being Awesome campaign. And we independently looked at data from all of your districts and wanted to lift up that data where you were being exemplars in some aspect of the work that you were doing to drive student outcomes in each of your districts. And it included some video campaigns where we went out and shot video footage or interviewed different districts for personal interest stories. And a lot of those videos were around CTE work. We watched CTE programs in districts that had EMT CTE programs or nursing programs where kids were in hospital shadowing a nurse. Even police training programs in school districts where retired police officers were now the classroom teacher in high school giving kids instruction about what it would be like to serve as a police officer when they graduated. And so as you are sitting here thinking about what you are most proud of, Todd and Dr. Phillips, in your district, I want to put that question on both of you. What are you most proud of that is happening in Azle ISD and Everman ISD for the kids that you have the great responsibility of serving every day? We'll start with you, Dr. Phillips.
I think overall, I'm maybe most proud that we don't set limits on our students, that we don't tell them what they need to be, what they should be. We listen and respond to what they want to be. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm most proud of. We can always change a program and we learn what the needs are. You know, programs are going to change, is my point. Yeah. But the students and them feeling fulfilled, them having a chance to be successful, that's what I'm most proud of. So being able to provide for them an opportunity to build a life for themselves, to build an idea of success for themselves is what I'm most proud of. And that's being reflected in our district by increasing numbers in college career and military readiness, which has increased a great deal over the last 5 years. But that is one thing I'm very proud of.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
I would say a lot of similar, just the opportunities. And I know we spent a lot of time today focusing on just the CTE, but just the overall opportunities that we're able to provide students. Go back to that, you know, with our mission and vision of every child, every chance, every day, future ready, not by chance, but by design. And I think we try to live that every day. And that's one of the things that I'm the most proud about is just being able to, the opportunities that we're able to provide them, whether that's in the CTE field, whether that's in the academic field, in that extracurricular opportunity, athletics, fine arts. And so the opportunities.
Thank you for that. And Jessica, as you look to the future and what the industry and economics of Tarrant County and the North Texas region look like, what do you leave us with in terms of something that we can be thinking about as we plan for the next 3, 5, 10 years here?
Right. So Fort Worth is about to cross 1 million people. So that means Tarrant County is getting very large. And so momentum is building in Fort Worth in more than just population. There's industry looking at us. Existing businesses here are growing. People are starting to look more at Fort Worth than they ever have before. Mm-hmm. And so there's going to be a lot of opportunity for your students to remain right here in Tarrant County. So I think that's something to be proud of. Our existing partnership is only going to grow.
Okay, Jessica, you get the question from businesses, talent, talent, talent. Are you going to leave here today being able to answer definitively and with confidence that we have all the talent answers that they need right here?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Certainly.
Well, it's thank you to these leaders and all their teams at their district that's really making that happen. And I do believe that this is a region that understands the connection between a thriving economy and a thriving public education system, the need that both of those things must coexist for us to have the mutual reinforcing wins that we want on an industry side, but also on an education side, that we can't keep thinking about it as the graduation of our high schoolers into industry and then the responsibility stops there, but that our industry partners are the caregivers of the kids that you are educating every day, and there's no stronger predictor of the academic success of those students than the families that they are coming from. And so those existing industries have a responsibility today to help fuel the future workforce that's in our classrooms. And so we thank you both, Dr. Phillips and Mr. Smith, for the leadership roles that you play in your school districts. You are leaders in a coalition of 17 independent school districts that have over 750,000 kids being educated here. It's a tremendous responsibility that each of you gets up and bears on your shoulders every day, but it's also a tremendous responsibility. And we thank you for your long careers of service and the decision that you make every single day, every single week, every single month, and every single year to keep persisting and putting one step in front of the other to continuously do better for the kids that are under your care. Thank you for listening to The Review, a Rev Partnership podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to subscribe and follow us so that you never miss an episode. For more information on Rev Partnership, please visit our website at revpartnership.org and follow us on social media. Until next time, thank you.